All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're breaking down the latest earnings report from Fastenal. Now, these guys are a massive player in industrial supplies, and what they're doing right now is pretty fascinating. It's more than just numbers on a page. It's a story about how to really thrive when the market around you is just trying to tread water.
So, first things first, let's look at the headline number that got everyone's attention. In the fourth quarter of 2025, Fastenal's revenue jumped up by 11.5% compared to the year before. In this kind of economic environment, seeing double-digit growth like that is, well, it's a pretty big deal.
And that really strong quarter was the perfect cap to their year. It pushed their total sales for 2025 to a record-breaking $8.2 billion. I mean, that is just a huge number, and it really shows you how essential this company is to the entire industrial backbone of the economy. So you look at all that, and on the surface, everything seems fantastic, right? They had a blockbuster quarter to finish off an incredibly successful year. Strong sales, solid profits. But as always, that's not the whole story. And here is the twist. This incredible growth wasn't happening in some booming, red-hot market. Nope, it was happening while the broader industrial economy was actually pretty sluggish, pretty challenging. And that disconnect, well, that raises a really big question. To really understand what Fastenal is pulling off here, we have to zoom in on this paradox, this gap between how they're doing and how the rest of the market is doing. Because unpacking that is the key to their entire strategy. And this slide lays out the puzzle perfectly. On one side, you've got Fastenal growing by over 11%. But on the other, U.S. industrial production was basically flat. And other key indicators, like the Purchasing Managers Index, that's the survey that tells you if manufacturing is growing or shrinking, was actually signaling a contraction. So how are they doing this? How is one company absolutely thriving when its core market is just stagnant? Well, that's the big question, isn't it? And the answer really lies in a very smart two-part strategy. So let's get into part one. So the first part of their secret sauce is a very deliberate, very focused sales strategy. See, instead of trying to be everything to everyone, Fastenal is doubling down on winning and then growing their business with their largest, most strategic customers. And you can see that strategy in action right here on this chart. The number of customer sites spending more than $50,000 a year with them, that grew by a whopping 14%. At the same time, they're intentionally letting their smaller, lower volume accounts shrink. This isn't random. It's a surgical move to target growth where it's most profitable. And wow, is it paying off? This focus is letting them grab significant market share, especially in manufacturing. Their total number of these big contract customers grew by over 7% last year. When you build these deep relationships, you create a revenue stream that's way more stable and predictable, even when the economy gets a little shaky. But that's only half the story. The second, and you could argue most critical piece of Fastenal's strategy is their huge investment in technology, in creating what they call their digital footprint. At the very heart of this is something they call FMI, or Fastenal Managed Inventory. Now, the easiest way to picture this is to think of super smart vending machines and automated bins that they install right on a customer's factory floor. It's literally like having a miniature, high-tech Fastenal store operating 24/7 right inside your own building. And the impact of this is just undeniable. Take a look at this. In the fourth quarter, a staggering 62.1%, nearly two-thirds of all their sales, came through these digital channels. The vast majority of their business is now powered by this technology. And just let this number sink in for a second. Almost half of all their revenue flowed directly through a Fastenal vending machine or a smart bin that's physically located at a customer's site. You see, this isn't just about selling products anymore. It's about weaving their supply chain deep into their customers' daily operations, which makes them an absolutely indispensable partner. Okay, so this strategy is clearly powerful, but the road ahead isn't completely clear of obstacles. Let's take a look at some of the headwinds they're actually facing and what that might mean for the future. Their own CEO, Dan Florness, points to a key challenge right here. They're feeling pressure on their profit margins, especially from some of their big-name suppliers. He explains that when these suppliers try to spread their own rising costs across all their products, it creates a real squeeze for Fastenal. It becomes, as he says, more problematic. And these pressures are definitely showing up in the numbers. Their gross margin tightened by about 0.5 percentage point in the fourth quarter. But here's the thing, they're not just taking it,
Management said they are actively pushing back on these price hikes, and they're even planning to ramp up their own spending next year to keep funding all these growth projects. And this really is the bottom line. Even with the squeeze on margins and the sluggish economy, the leadership team is so confident in their strategy that they're publicly forecasting another year of double-digit sales growth in 2026. And I think this quote really captures the company's culture. CEO Dan Florness basically says, "Look, I've been here for 30 years, and in tough situations like this, I always bet on our team to get it done." That shows a deep belief not just in the strategy, but in the people who have to execute it every single day.
So, that leaves us with the big, forward-looking question. Fastenal has this long-term goal to nearly double in size and become a $15 billion company. We've just seen how their high-tech, big customer strategy is working wonders right now. But can it continue to defy economic gravity and carry them all the way to that ambitious goal? Well, that's the story we'll all be watching.